Hi guys, today we are going to be reviewing the new palette from Beaute Bar, and this is the Pastel Garden palette. So as you can see, quite a large palette. This palette should be available when you're seeing this. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late with this video. I'm actually filming this portion the day of the launch, so like you'll see this probably like 3 hours after I'm done filming it or something like that. But I did want to get this video up today if I could, and originally I was going to do 4 looks with this, but I've only done 3 and I'm not going to be filming a look for this video because I need to get started on other things because I've had so many things come into my collection that I'm gonna show you the looks that I've done with this palette, and I will give you the review of the palette while you're seeing the looks. But this is what the palette looks like. So it's a very, very large, mostly pastel palette, and I think it is a beautiful color story. Could it have been edited down a little bit? Yeah, probably. I do feel like a lot of these tones, especially if you're seeing the swatches, are a little bit too similar, and like I get it, you want to have different variations of the same color, but at the same time maybe having like a matte white instead in there so that you can lighten up some of these colors if you wanted to would be a better option than having like 3 colors that are almost the same, just like different depth. I don't know, that could just be me, but I do feel like this palette could have been a little bit different. But it is a beautiful palette if you're looking for pastel eyeshadows, and I'm gonna go ahead and just show you the looks that I've done with this right now and tell you kind of how I feel about this palette. So my first impression when I started using this, I felt like the mattes were very pigmented, but in the first look that I did a very simple look, and this is how I feel like I use pastels, is I don't want to overblend, I don't want to overcomplicate things, I don't want to use too many shadows on my eyes, because I feel like with pastel shadows, kind of like neons, you don't want to like overblend and overbuild because it's just tough with these kind of formulas. So I just used one matte over my lid and then I used a shimmer on top of that, and that was that, and it worked out beautifully. I did have quite a bit of creasing with that look during the day with the shimmers, because the shimmers in this palette they're very, very creamy and emollient, and I normally love that formula, but I think that some of these are maybe a little bit too creamy for my eyes, and I am very prone to creasing in general, so sometimes shadows crease a little bit too much for my liking, and I did feel like some of these, not all of them, did crease a little bit too much. So that is like my only sort of drawback that I would say that I have so far. But I felt like everything performed well in the first look. In the second look that I did, I tried to use a couple more of the shades in it just to sort of see how they would perform. And I felt like the yellows, the matte yellows they were okay, but it took a lot of like building to get the pigment to come out, and I didn't feel like they were as good as the mattes in the first look. So I don't think that the mattes in this palette are going to be my favorites when it comes to pastel mattes. I don't think they're bad, and I think that if you use a white base, if you don't mind doing that, you're really going to get these to pop. But for me, some of them were a little bit lackluster and took a little bit too long to build up. They are very creamy and very smooth, and like they feel really nice. They swatch okay. There's definitely like discrepancies between the shades. Like some are definitely better than others, and I find that the lighter the shade, the less pigmented it is. So maybe it's just like it's hard to make pastels is what I've gathered from this palette. And I don't think that I'm not going to reach for this palette again, but I didn't have as good of a time with it as maybe I was expecting, but I still like the looks that came out of it. And I think that the shimmers in here are beautiful. If you don't struggle with creasing, you're going to love these. It was the kind of creasing where I felt like it got a little bit crusty on the lid, so it was hard to sort of tap over with my finger, which I'm usually able to do with shimmers, but I found that these kind of crumbled a little bit, and so it just didn't look that great when trying to like smooth them out. So that is an issue that I feel like I have with this palette, and what's going to make me not want to reach for this again, especially if I'm having a long day. I don't want to have to worry about like crustiness on my lids. So I think those are going to be my thoughts, just like formula-wise on the palette. I do think it's like I said, it's a fun color story, and if you like pastels, I don't think you're going to dislike this, and it just depends on like how your eyes kind of deals with creamy shadows, I guess. The last look that I did, I wanted to keep it pretty simple again. I just did a wing shape like I normally do with some of the shades, and I did think that the pastel purples were okay, but they were a little bit on the sheer side. That's just kind of what I've experienced overall with the mattes in this palette. They're not the most rich shadows, I think is the best way to put it. They are a little bit on the sheer side, but you can build them up if you want to. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Again, the shimmers are beautiful. I really like the way that this one looked, and this is the one that wore the best on me. I did not have a lot of creasing with this one, but it's sort of hit or miss, so you never know really what you're going to get until you put the shadow on your eyes and you start wearing it. It can also maybe be a little bit tricky to get a smooth application with the shimmers because they are that very creamy, sometimes a little bit flaky formula. I would say they definitely perform better over a glitter glue. They're just going to apply smoother and be easier to get a nice, like, smooth and not chunky application with them, or you can use a finger, but I don't like doing that, so I didn't do that with any of the looks. So I think that's pretty much going to be my thoughts. I'm gonna keep this video pretty short and sweet and to the point because I want to be able to edit this quickly and get this video up for you, and I also need to film a look with another palette that I have here that I need to do before I start editing this video. So I hope that's okay. I just wanted to give you a review on this palette. If you do want to pick it up, I do have a code with Bella Beauty Bar. It's just Annette, and it will save you 10% off. It is affiliated. I really love them as a brand in general. I just feel like for me personally, this palette was a little bit of a miss, but I can see other people really loving it. I'm just very picky. I'm very picky when it comes to eyeshadows. I know what I like, and this one just didn't hit all the marks that I'm looking for in a palette, and that's okay. They can't all be like super winners. So I think those are going to be my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching as always. If you want to see some more Bella Beauty Bar content, I'll put my playlist up on the screen. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.